Now, at that point, they're able to harness the power of an entire universe, which means they're able to harness the power of all the galaxies and all the billions of solar systems within each galaxy. So a Type 5 is the most advanced civilization that exists. Now, besides these, different types or categories of advanced civilizations, there are different types of extraterrestrial races that exist within the 5 different categories. So we are considered biological beings, which means that the type of matter or biology that is used to make us is carbon-based. Okay, so civilizations of a Type 1 and Type 2 are carbon-based civilizations. So, that's why our bodies break down. That's why we age. That's why eventually we die. But as we become more advanced, spiritually, culturally, technologically, well, there's always has to be that balance between technology and spirituality, because in most cases, in many galaxies, civilizations that have leaned towards technological development at the expense of their spiritual development eventually end up destroying themselves. So we learn from those mistakes. So spirituality has to always be at the forefront of cultural and technological development. And so the type of matter or species that exists in the Type 2 civilization is a combination of silicon-based DNA or carbon-based DNA. At that point, people begin to live for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So if an extraterrestrial from a Type 2 civilization were to come to the Earth and visit us, they would still be physical, they would still look human, but their body would be indestructible. An analogy to use is, the Marvel movies, the DC movies. Thor. Thor has a type of biology that is considered silicone-based as opposed to carbon-based. Superman from planet Krypton. Again, all these movies, they're telling us the truth. They're telling us the truth. Also has a silicon-based physical body, as to why when people, try to kill him, the bullets just kind of bounce right off of him. That's when you begin. That's the result of having a silicon-based type of DNA genetic structure. It is indestructible, and you live for thousands of years. So, in comparison to humans of a Type 0 or a Type 1, they were appeared to be as gods. And that is where the ancients went wrong. When the extraterrestrials came from a Type 2 civilization, or even a Type 3, who are even more advanced than the Type 2, and their matter is just silicon-based. They don't have any carbon-based. They're able to materialize, teleport. They have all the superpowers. The people of a Type 2 civilization are no longer dependent on external technology. They use a consciousness-based technology where they, in a symbiotic manner, they merge their consciousness with the elements.
And Type 3?
Type 3, yeah.
A Type 3, yeah. Type 3 no longer depend on external technology. The only civilizations that continue to use external technology, like when we see the UFOs that are metallic and all that stuff, or the UFOs that have been reverse engineered by our secret government, because again, for those that have no idea of the secret space program, our secret government has been developing interplanetary and stellar technology, which is of a Type 1 and a Type 2, for over 60 years. So we have all that tech. But unfortunately, that tech has only been employed within the private sector. So while we're over here dying of cancer, living hard living conditions, they're over there up in space colonizing, establishing stations, not only throughout the Milky Way, but throughout the entire galaxy. And I know a lot of people, there's only 4 people that know about the secret space program, but yes, we did inherit the technology by means of 2 different methods. One of them was we reversed engineer it, and the other mean was that we did make contact with extraterrestrials back in the 40s and 1950s, and several treatises and several contracts were signed between these extraterrestrial groups and different government factions. So going back to the concept of a type 3. So a civilization of a type 3, the type of matter or biology that the inhabitants use is pure silicon with a little bit of hydroplasma. At that point, they're just light beings. They are light beings. So again, they're using consciousness-based technology. They no longer need external technology. So when we see their ships up in the sky, the ships is an extension of their own Merkaba. It is an extension of themselves. And then, they're able to use that technology, that consciousness-based technology, to travel to the different lower types of worlds that exist in the type 2 and the type 1. Okay, so now that you guys have somewhat of an understanding of the different types of advanced civilizations that exist, I would like to describe or mention the different types of extraterrestrials that have been assisting us from behind the scenes, as well as those that have been impeding us, that don't have their best interests for humanity, that have been trying to conquer us and destroy us. So these two types of groups, the negative, let's just talk about the negative. Has anybody here ever heard of the Draco reptilians?
Yes.
Okay. Mostly everybody, good. Okay, so the Draco reptilians are known as the villains in our galaxy and in most galaxies. They're the ones that have been trying to bring about some sort of a universal, intergalactic, and galactic stellar empire for a long time, for millions and millions upon millions of years. So they originated within a system in Lower Orion known as the Alpha Draconis, and also the Sigma Draconis. And from Lower Orion, these reptilians have been gradually conquering the different solar systems because they are what we call a type 2, right? They're still using external technology, but they are not spiritually advanced or evolved to use consciousness-based technology. So they depend on only external technology. So that from the Alpha Draconis Sigma system, they've been gradually been colonizing the different parts of our galaxy, mainly the Lower Orion region. That's always been, that constellation has always been their stronghold. So we could say that the root of all evil, the root of even where the Illuminati gets their ideas from and their concepts from, originated in Orion, in our galaxy. Orion is where all evil originated before it translated over into our world as Babylon. So those are the bad guys. Those are the villains in our galaxy and in many other galaxies. And working with the Draco reptilians, we have the Hydras reptilians, we have the Omicrons, which is a mixture hybrid race between reptilians and insectoids. Yes, people, when we watch movies like Star Wars and we see these bars filled with humanoids, insectoids, mantis, Sasquatch, that's all real. That's all real. So next time you guys watch Star Wars or, any of the Marvel movies, try to see them more as documentaries. Try to see them more as documentaries. The Matrix, especially the last one. That one was dead on. Anyhow.
Yeah.
So other extraterrestrial races that are involved with as villains that are working with the reptilians are also known as the Greys. The Greys are those little buggety eyes that we see in most of the Hollywood movies with those big black eyes, the long arms, and they're really skinny with the oval head. Those are the Greys. But get this, the Greys weren't once always looking like that. I mean, they weren't always looking like that. At one point, they were actually humanoids. They were humanoids, but due to a devastating nuclear holocaust that happened in their planet about 500 million years ago, the remaining humanoid population of planet Apix, which is where they originated, decided to go into the underground, and in order to prevent a natural holocaust or another nuclear war, which was caused by emotional some sort of emotions that they couldn't overcome. It was an emotional thing. They decided to do away with that aspect of themselves. And so you know what they did? They genetically eliminated their sex organs. Yes. So because they couldn't reproduce naturally anymore, and reproduction is a natural part of all species in existence, they decided to use cloning. They decided to go with artificial intelligence, cybernetic technology. And after millions of years of using cloning, their own species began to die out. And that's why they're traveling back in time to our present in order to, conduct these abductions, to extract DNA from us in an effort to save their species. So that's just their story. But they've been working with the Draco. Eventually the Draco captured them from the Apex system, which was in Lyra, and transferred them over to the Rambola system, which occupies Zeta Reticula 1 and Zeta Reticula 2. So that's where they come from mostly. Okay, so who are the positives? Who are the extraterrestrials that are in our favor, that are here to help us?
The Pleiadians.
Say that again?
The Pleiadians.
The Pleiadians, that's one of them. Actually, the Pleiadians are a main group. Yeah, they're one of the most primary groups that have been assisting humanity for thousands of years. In the religious texts, they're actually known as the angels. When we study the Bible, when we study the ancient Sumerian tablets, when we study the Rig Vedas, the Bhagavad
Gita.
Thank you. The different scriptures from India, the Vedas, they all talk about these angelic beings that are humanoid, that come from the heavens, they come from heaven to earth, and that assist us, give us information, give us knowledge, and protect us. Well, they're talking about the Pleiadians. So the Pleiadians are our brothers and sisters from the cluster constellation of the Pleiadians. Not to mention, our solar system is actually also part of that family of stars known as the Pleiadians. So our sun, known as Alcyon, known as, forget the name of our sun, Helios, sorry, drawing a blank here. But Helios
Melchior?
Melchior is the name of our galaxy, thank you. Our sun, Helios, is part of the cluster, is known as the 8th missing star within the Pleiadians star system cluster of families. So Helios is connected to the Alcyon. Alcyon is the central sun of the Pleiadians. So we're known as the 8th missing star. Most people associate the Pleiadians with the 7 sisters, right? We see that in mythology when we study about Greek mythology. When we study, the different ancient cultures, they talk about the 7 stars or the 7 sisters that pour knowledge into the earth. Well, a lot of that has to do with the concept of the Pleiadians being our parent race. And yes, they are our parent race. I guess this is the perfect time to let you guys all know that most civilizations out there are populated by humanoid species. The idea that there's little green man and, monster-looking like species, that's all Hollywood. It turns out that every civilization in every galaxy, in every universe, was made in the image of the one creator. They call it the Adam Kadmon, the Adama, right? Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve isn't unique to our world. In fact, the original Adam and Eve was developed 560 million years ago in the constellation of Lyra, in the star system of Vega. So if you really, really, really want to question everything we've been taught regarding Darwinian evolution and creation, that we've only been here for 5,000-6,000 years, that Adam and Eve were created 5,000-6,000 years ago, and it all began there. That's all a lie in order to conceal the truth of our extraterrestrial heritage. Because in essence, our real ancestors, all humanities, all humanoid races originated in Lyra. From Lyra. Is this new to some of you people? I just want to, okay, so some, okay. Okay, I just want to make sure, because, I want to make sure that those people that are here are getting a thorough understanding of the extraterrestrial connection. So those are our ancestors. We come from Lyra. From Lyra, our ancestors, who were very peaceful, gradually populated into other solar systems. And one of the star systems that they populated is the Pleiades. They also went to the Hadar system. I guess some of these systems don't really make any sense. But the whole point is this, is that the majority of alien species are humanoid. About 75 to 80% of the population in the multiverse is humanoid.
Can you explain what you mean by humanoid exactly?
Yeah, humanoid means that they would look like us. Like Superman, Thor, if they come down from planet Krypton or planet Asgard, and if they just put on jeans and a shirt with shoes and take off their togas or their space outfits, They could blend right with us, and we wouldn't even know that they're aliens. That's what I mean by humanoid. There's a common ancestry throughout the cosmos, people, regarding our lineage. So we don't come from apes. If you thought we originate in Africa, that's false. If you thought we had any connection to the primitives of the Neanderthal family and the Homo erectus, Homo robustus, that's also false. You know, the truth is, we were seeded.
But weren't the monkeys seated, and that's why we have the missing link?
Well, the monkeys are part of the concept of the evolution from the bottom up. Yeah, it's this idea that, you know, you have the various kingdoms, right? You have the mineral kingdom, and then above the mineral kingdom, you have the plant kingdom. And then above the plant kingdom, you have the animal kingdom. And then above the animal kingdom, then you have the human kingdom. So the difference is that the primitives are part of the animal kingdom. There is no distinction. There is no similarities between us and them. The human kingdom actually was descending from above. You know, we started off in the higher dimensions. Our real origin was in the 12th dimension. If I could go a little deeper now, I'm going to go a little deeper, okay? Let's go a little deeper.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so our multi-dimensional time matrix, known as the holographic reality, is a 12-dimensional type of system where we exist in 12 dimensions. Even aspects of us, people, exist in other dimensions. So even though we're here in the 3rd dimension, there's different aspects of our consciousness and, you know, parts of ourselves that are multidimensional all the way to the 12th dimension. So we are multidimensional beings. We just so happen to only know, perceive, and exist of this dimension here known as the 3rd dimension. But the other ones are still there, okay? So even the Earth is a multidimensional entity, just like all planets, stars, and galaxies and universes. They're all living entities, and they're consciousness. They have feelings, they're sentient. So our entire universe exists within 12 dimensions, just like us. It's a hologram. Every fractal contains the whole. So if the universe exists within 12 dimensions, then we exist within 12 dimensions. There's no difference. Okay, so our real origin is spiritual luminal, not this crude physical, you know, biological vessel, which is just an avatar. So we should start thinking of reality as a simulation in a way. Because in essence, nothing is really solid. There is no matter. It's just energy vibrating at different frequencies. And that's what distinguishes the different dimensional rates of the different levels and frequencies called dimensions is the rate of vibration. The higher we vibrate, the more subtle and the less dense we become. The lower we vibrate, the more crude and gross physical matter we become. It doesn't matter in which direction you go on the scale, but it's all connected and it's all part of the light energy spectrum, which is only one. So it's almost like these 12 dimensions extended from a one singular consciousness. That consciousness, which I talk about in my book, by the way, I talk about how there's really overall 3 different planes of reality. There is the infinity, the realms of eternity, which is that pure consciousness that one day decided to explore more of itself because it got bored. So it started dividing itself, it started fragmentalizing, it started lowering its frequency. And then that's how the 15-dimensional, or what we call the 12-dimensional time matrix was born. It's all a simulation. So even the 3rd-dimensional reality, which is the lowest condensed, lowest form of simulation, exists within the 4th-dimensional simulation reality. The 4th-dimensional simulation reality exists within the 5th dimension. It's all simulations, and the only thing that is pure-based consciousness, or what we call pure reality, that is not a simulation, is the realms of infinity, which is where we all come from. So, to answer your question, our spirits descended. It was a matter of involution with the I-N-V, not evolution. We descended from those higher frequencies all the way to the 3rd dimension. So there is no there is no similarities between us and the animal kingdom. You know, the animal kingdom is, but at the same time, they served a purpose where involution, spirit, descends into matter, right? We start from the higher frequencies, right? We were light beings first, then we became etheric, and then we became physical. So there's 3 overall planes of reality. There is the eternity, which is the always existing realms, pure light, and then light becomes ether, right? Like like when you put a light through the prism, it reflects the different spectral colors. That's the ether. So we were first light. We have always been light, And that's why our spirit is immortal. So when somebody tries to do something to our physical body, they're only doing it to this vehicle that is operating in the third dimension. But remember, you exist in all the way up to the 12th dimension. There's different aspects of you. There's different avatar vehicles that exist in these other dimensions. So from the top down, we've always been luminal light. And then we became ether, we became mind. And then we became matter. And that is the current understanding of our composition as multidimensional beings in physical human form. So we are spirit, mind, and matter. But we were always spirit and mind. Yes?
Do we have to keep doing this physical process? Like, it seems like a lot of energy, I don't want to say wasted, but it seems like coming down from such a high evolutionary place into matter. Is it necessary that we keep coming back here, like how we are right now? Do we have to keep coming back?
That's a very good question. We're actually finishing the involutionary process, which is the descent of spirit into matter. So now we're balancing back up, and that's what this great ascension is all about. This new Earth. Welcome to the new Earth, in a sense where we are now bouncing back to the fifth dimensional reality, where we're going to have more access to our full consciousness and our multidimensionality.
Is that why we're getting more crystalline?
That's what. Yes, we're becoming more crystalline. Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to ask how Christ consciousness plays into that. So what is Christ consciousness?
Christ consciousness is unity consciousness. Is the idea that we're all connected as one living organism with the universe itself. That yeah, just like the trillions of cells in your body have their own individuality, but yes, they work in a harmonious communities. That there's parents that give birth to their children. They have communities. They go to school. They have their churches. I don't know how it works, but they have communities. There's so it's like being broken up into trillion microscopic versions of yourself. It's just same concept. We're all cells in the universe. Yes, ma'am?
When do you estimate we're going to be turning more crystalline and like fully anchoring that in and being in the fifth dimension?
No.
Any day now.
Yeah.
I believe that it's happening any day.
It's already here.
It's already happening, yeah. And for those that are doing the spiritual work, for those that are grounding, those that are meditating, that are raising their frequencies, you guys are already in the new Earth.
Yes.
It's happening already. The fifth dimensional Earth, as I speak, is coexisting with the third dimensional reality. And there's going to be a time where there's going to be a timeline split, or what religions call the rapture. Those that are ascending on the new Earth are going to be disappearing from those that are not making the new Earth, that are going to be going into a separate timeline. So that's coming soon.
That's kind of being stuck in the fifth, because this is higher, this is more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me actually elaborate on that. That's a very good concept. Okay, so remember I was telling you how we exist in a 12-dimensional time matrix holographic reality? Okay, well technically there's 15 dimensions, and these 15 dimensions are placed within 5 universal harmonics or 5 densities. So right now we exist in what is known as density 1 universe, or harmonic universe number 1, and that consists of dimensions 1, 2, and 3. This is where the minerals exist, plants, animals, us, right? And then there's density 2 universe, also known as harmonic universe number 2. That is dimensions 4, 5, and 6. At that point, it's more of a silicon-based matter, but it's still biology, but it's more of a silicon-based. And then there is harmonic universe number 3, or dense universe 3, which consists of dimensions 7, 8, and 9. At that point, you're just pure silicon-based. It's not just silicon with carbon base. It's just pure silicon. And again, that corresponds. Remember those different categories of civilizations that exist: type 1, type 2, type 3. It is exactly the same thing, people. Harmonic.
Light body.
Oh, well, yeah, the light body, the silicon light, the silicon biology is what we call the light body in metaphysical and esoteric literature. The idea that our light body is a multidimensional vehicle that we could use to access the different dimensions. But that only happens once we ascend to the 4th and 5th density. Actually, the 5th and 6th density. The 4th density, we're still kind of more of a carbon-based matter. But 5th and 6th density, silicon-based. And then as we go to harmonic universe number 3, we become hydroplasmic, we become light beings. And that's when we occupy dimensions 7, 8, and 9. At which point, we also begin to unify. We become part of what is known as a social memory complex or a collective. And that's why when some of these benevolent extraterrestrials make contact with us, they don't come and say, hey, I am Joe Blow. They come and they say, hey, we are the Pleiadian collective. We are the Arcturian collective. We are the Syrian collective. It's because they're operating from those frequencies. Now, there's also harmonic universe number 4, which occupies dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And those are the most advanced. Those are the most advanced. And then harmonic universe number 5. You guys know where that level of reality exists? Harmonic universe number 5? Okay,
It's
I'll tell
closer
you.
to God, so it must be.
That is exactly. It's prime creator source.
Right.
It's 13, 14, and 15. Remember I was talking about how there's the realms of infinity, you have eternity, and then there's the realms of the finite, which is time and space, right? Simulations. Okay, so once we go beyond the 12th dimension into harmonic universe number 5, occupying dimensions 13, 14, and 15, then we are one with everything that is. We are one. We are once again unified with that singular unity consciousness before it broke off into those different 12 frequency bands. So that's how we originated, people. That's where we come from. We are all fragments. We are all rays of that one singular consciousness. But right now we're in the lowest dimension, so it seems like everything is separated. It seems like you're over there and I'm over here. But in essence, there is no me and you. We're different aspects of the one. We're all different rays of the one sun, central sun.
So when the timeline splits, the people that didn't go into the 5D, what happens to them? Do they stay in the 3D dimension, or do they have another chance to go?
Well, that's where the concept of reincarnation comes into play, and depending on your blueprint, on your, everybody has a soul contract before they incarnate. If you did the work, you're most likely. But even if you don't do the work, okay, let me just say this. Most people that are not meditating, that are just generally good people, right? They care for others, they see an old lady on the street, they help her walk across the sidewalk. It's a service to mankind, even though they don't meditate, they're not doing their yoga, their qigong and tai chi and all that stuff. They're going into the they're still graduating into the second harmonic universe, but they're going into the 4th density. So remember, we're still going into the 4th density. Not everybody's making the 5th density. So there's going to be different levels of exaltation. So for the most part, most people on planet Earth who are not, starseeds, light workers, are going to be graduating into the 4th density reality. And yes, they are going to make the shift into the 4th density. And 4th density reality is way better than the 3rd density reality. This, every extraterrestrial race out there knows this, that the hardest density to experience is 3rd dimension. The fact that we all came here tells us that our soul is unbreakable, that our spirit is powerful, because we were able to handle this. Unfortunately, many of our starseed brethren. Now, what is a starseed? I'm sorry. Some of these people. Yeah. What is? I figured. I read the energy. So let me explain a little bit. A starseed is an advanced older soul or extraterrestrial soul that volunteered to come to this low, primitive, dense world in order to help assist humanity and to assist the planet, in order to raise the frequency of the earth, in order to help the earth ascend collectively into the higher dimensions. So a starseed is an extraterrestrial soul that came from a population 2 or dimensions, anywhere from dimensions 5, 6, 7 and above. Those are the starseed nations, or what they call the extraterrestrial souls in human form.
And how do you know?
If you're a starseed, for the most part, it's an inner feeling. It's hard to fit in from the beginning. It's when you're in school, most of them get bullied. I got bullied. You're always, it seems like to society, it seems like you're the odd duck. You're just different. That's how you know you're a starseed. And you have a longing for home. You miss home. You know that you're not from this world. Go ahead, Monica. I'm sorry, you have a question too.
I have a question from your live. How to make it to 4th and 5th?
Well, like I said, you know, you don't have to be a spiritual person, a light worker, to make it into the fourth. For the most part, people that are not wicked are making it into the fourth. Only the wicked are going to be eliminated. But to make it to the fifth, you have to be spiritual. You have to be some sort of a light worker, you know, where it's not just being a good person in general. I mean, you have to do the work, whether it is through, you know, assisting the planet, through your readings, if you're a channeler, through your advising, you know, or if you're a grid worker, you know, by anchoring higher frequency energies that is raising the collective. If you're an astrologer, you know, you're doing your readings to help people become better people based on their, you know, natal chart. So those are the light workers. The light workers are all going into the fifth dimension because they're people that are, or spirits that come from the sixth density and above, that have always been like high priestess and priest in the times of Atlantis, and all they're doing is they're just reincarnating to continue that work that helps bring in, you know, heaven on earth. You have a question? I'm sorry, you keep asking.
Thank you for your research.
Oh, you're welcome. Is my hour up?
No.
Oh.
No.
No,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
5:08.
Okay, I still have time.
No, I'm not done. I can answer the question. I'm just acknowledging it before I ask the question.
Thank you.
What's happening?
Thank you.
So you know, the history of these kings, the Akkadian kings and the Sumerian kings that lived for a couple thousand years or several thousand years, were they from the second system? And are we still at effect from their rule now? And is there a move towards, and are they malevolent for us? And is there any movement towards separating ourselves if in fact they are still using their systems to operate here?
Are you talking about the negative Anunnaki
Yeah.
that left their children behind, and
Yeah.
they kind of, okay, no, they've been neutralized, they've been eliminated. The good guys, the benevolent ETs have stepped in. And then of course the starseeds that volunteered to come to the earth this time to raise the frequency, a lot of us have also been doing a lot of work within the higher realms. You know, we've been battling some of these negative ETs in the astral realm, some of these archonic negative entities, clearing these higher dimensions in order to make sure that what happens in the higher dimensions materializes in the lower dimensions. So no, the Federation has been helping us, all the benevolent ETs, the positive races out there, like the Pleiadians, right, our parent race. Actually, the Niburians were our parent race, but the positive Niburians, the ones that were mostly based on or that have the Lyran Pleiadian DNA, not the ones that have the Draco-Reptilian DNA. Those were the negative guys. But they've been neutralized, and all the even their families that they left in charge, like the elites that have ruled the world for, you know, thousands of years, you know, that originated in Babylon, you know, created all the different empires, you know, the Cabal, right? they've all been taken out. You know, we have so much support right now, not only from us, the light warriors, but also from the entire host of heaven, from all the different levels of reality, all the way up until the 13th, 12, 15, yeah, even creator source isn't intervening at this point, because this is the most important planet in the multiverse. You know, this is the planet that was chosen to be the epicenter of the new creation of a whole new different multiverse that is going to usher in as a result of Earth ascending any day now.
Can you speak about how we're going to activate and have superhuman abilities, and those dormant DNA codes are going to turn on with the solar flash?
Yes, there's this incredible event that has been prophesied about and predicted in all the ancient texts. You know, the Christians call it the transmuting, the fire that's going to kill off the wicked and exalt the righteous. The ancient Zoroastrian tradition calls it the Sambarka fire. The people from India call it Frashokareti, and what that is the idea that our sun is going to release some sort of an energetic blast that is going to burn off all the wicked, and at the same time transform the current human race and upgrade them into their next phase of evolution, which is, you know, we go from carbon-based to silicon carbon, and some of us are just going to go into silicon carbon because, again, we're going to be entering the 4, 5, and 6 dimensions in harmonic universe number 2. So as our Earth goes back into the harmonic universe number 2, as it was before it descended into the, you know, harmonic universe number 1, and 2, and 3 dimensions, our original strands of DNA, which are 12, right now we are only using 2 helixes, are going to rebundle and reconnect and activate. And when that happens, we're gonna have these telepathic abilities, you know, we're gonna be like healers, you know, those that are on the 5th and 6th density are gonna be able to fly, and they're gonna be like the superheroes. They're gonna have these amazing superhuman-like powers. And that has a lot to do with the activation of our dormant DNA by the solar flash. So we're living in a time where any day now, expect the emergence of these, you know, superhumans.
So you say any day now, where they talk about up in the spirit realm or those areas, there's no time. So when you say any day now, is it cosmic any day now, or
Or it's-
here and now
Yeah,
day
yeah,
now?
it's a time cycle that we're beginning.
I think we have it now.
It,
I don't think it's gonna be like, on this day, this and this is gonna.
yeah, I mean, we
Trans-
can't put a date on it, but it's been prophesied that this, you know, type of event would occur due to this solar flare that is about to
Are
take
solar
place.
flares part of this system that's going on right now?
Yeah, because,
A lot of them being activated.
well, that's how Prime Creator Source exalts and upgrades each station into the next level or to the next scale of evolution is through these. Okay, so our galaxy, let me explain what a stellar activation cycle is. Okay, our galaxy has photonic energies. So, you know, when we see our galaxy, we see like a flat disk, right, with a big bulge in the center. Well, from that bulge in the center, there's these highways of photonic energy called photon bands, and there's like a few. When planets, when star systems, as solar systems are revolving around the galactic core, every now and then they go through these photonic bands of energy with high messianic, you know, frequencies. And what that does is that transforms the matter. So a civilization that is existing at the level of type 1 gradually becomes exalted or upgraded into a type 2. A civilization that is a type 2 gradually becomes a type 3, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we're living for thousands of years. What happened? Like, now we have these abilities, our technology, we have access to all this technology. You know, a civilization of a type 3 becomes a type 4. But, you know, a type 4 is beyond the galaxy, beyond the galaxy. At that level of reality, we go into the 11th dimension, 10 and 12.
What about things like CERN?
CERN is used by the negatives. It's a way to create an alternative timeline where they want to continue the existence of this transhumanist agenda. They want to continue that agenda. So
I'm assuming that like the Galactic Federation, the rest of it kind of assisting with making sure we don't go off kilter with that.
of course, yes. So they've been working from behind the scenes. You know how many times the Galactic Federation has prevented us from having nuclear wars?
Atomic bomb, they
Atomic-
intervened a couple of times.
Many times, and they still do. They just stopped China from using their artificial sun based on them developing fusion a year ago. They were trying to open up a portal in order to bring in the AI god. I guess I can't really go into detail, but you know, ultimately the villain in the cosmos is we're fighting an AI, a collective. Yes, AI is even all the negative aliens answer to this alien AI god. He's the ultimate enemy. What was your question?
I forgot what she was saying, something.
I have a question. When we're talking about the solar flares, and some people talk about an event, and some people are saying that, you know, it's already happening, right?
Yes,
I mean,
it
the
is.
human resonance has been, you know, crazy for the last 3 years, and we're all getting blasted by photons from the sun. So not everybody agrees. Like, this may be a process, or is there actually going to be an event? I think that's what most humans are sort of afraid. Like, oh my God, am I going to suddenly lose, you know, a loved one in this event that's happening? And I think that's where a lot of people come from with that. Is there anything to fear? That's, I think, you know, we're all sort of go back to our human fear thing, right?
No, there is really nothing to fear. This is actually the greatest times to be living in, you know, as opposed to being born 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. You know,
If you're a bad person.
If you're a bad person,
Yeah.
hey, there you go. There you go. The only people that have to fear is the wicked. Other than that, I mean, this is like,
What do they have to fear though?
you know, they're going to be destroyed. When the sun releases a solar flare, that signal that it's going to activate the dormant DNA within the human species, creating these different levels of exaltation and upgrades. The wicked are going to be bursting. And so they know that.
They know this is happening, that's why
They know
they're
it's happening.
tighter hold.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of them, like even the regressive, some of the reptilian Dracos are trying to leave our solar system because they know that
Yeah.
if they stay here, they're gonna be done. They're gonna be cooked.
Does that mean at a soul level they'll be done?
Everything. They're gonna
Yeah.
be transmuted back to just pure source. They're gonna lose their individuality and be transformed back into just nothingness, just being part of, source. There's one more question, two more questions.
After this solar event, do you believe that we'll receive memories of past lives and our purpose here? And also after it, do you think a lot more contact will occur and the Galactic Federation come reveal their ships?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Cellular memory, as more than 4% of our DNA becomes reactivated, we're going to have memories of our past lives. We're going to have memories of who we were in other worlds. Memories are just going to, they're just going to keep streaming into your brain. So just prepare to have major downloads when this happens. And yes, of course, there's going to be huge interaction with the Galactic Federation. At which point we're actually going to be reinstated into the galactic community, because the truth of the matter is the Earth was once a member of the galactic community, where ships would come to and from different solar systems. And this is not just during the times of Atlantis. This has been going on for millions of years, up until, of course, the destruction of Atlantis and what resulted after that. And they reduced us back to savages, and we had to start all over. But before that, the people, our ancestors, 12,000, 15,000 years ago, we had all the tech, this secret tech, advanced, whatever you want to call it, that is only being employed within the private sector. But it's all going to be available to us once again. It's all going to be available to us. Okay, do you have?
So my question was, why is it that back in the 40s and the 50s, the other races or the aliens only showed themselves and did contracts with certain
government
people
officials?
and not everybody? And when did they decide, or why did they decide to think we weren't ready as a collective to know that they're out there?
Well, because of the idea that the elites have always been very secretive through their secret societies. So secret societies have always been on the lookout for developing extraterrestrial technology for centuries, even before the 1940s. And actually it all began in Germany in the late 1800s, and then kind of culminated with Maria Ostrich and the Royal Society in 1910, 1920. And she was the first one to make contact with a group of Nordics from the Aldebaran system. And then eventually Hitler came to power. He was part of the Thule Society. The Thule Society had heard about the inner core known as the Viral, and he kind of hijacked the tech, and then that's when the original space program began. So the Nazis were the first ones to make contact. Yeah, do you have a question?
There's two people on your Instagram. Talk about the civilization below us, the good one.
Oh, okay. So inner Earth societies. So another thing that I talk about in my book, and I would like to share, is that most of the planets are hollow. They're capable of having civilizations that exist within them. And so each planet has an inner Earth, inner sun. So it's got lakes, it's got mountains, ridges, rivers, oceans. So when you go into the inner Earth, it's almost like you have daytime, and you have, it's always daytime, because there is no nighttime, because there is like a sun that exists within the inner Earth. Yes.
Question from Instagram. When will the masses know all this? The sheep, if you will.
I think disclosure is already happening, but it's happening in increments. But I think the snowball is rolling. But I think this is the year. I believe this is the year that the snowball is just gonna overaccumulate, and boom, next thing you know, one thing after another.
Question, because I just said there's like 10 minutes left, so will people who took the V ... be able to ascend?
That all depends on their soul contract, and that all depends if they were coerced or not. If they were coerced just to keep their jobs, just to maintain their finances and keep their families afloat, then no, the solar flare is going to neutralize the cybernetic nanotech that was injected.
Is this a part of Bluebeam, Project Bluebeam, to fool us?
No, Project Bluebeam has been canceled. If they were the dark side, the cabal, and the military-industrial complex have been trying to, implement that for over 20 years, but Project Blue Beam, the idea that there's going to be some sort of a fake alien invasion has been canceled because the Federation has been stepping in, as well as the Earth Alliance. Now, if you guys want to know more information about this stuff, I would strongly recommend to order my book, Our Cosmic Origin. You can either order it through Amazon directly, or you can, oh, there we go, there's a copy. She's the only one with a
Zoom
copy.
in on it.
And she actually got a signed copy, because she follows me on Instagram, so she came here just to see me.
Thank
Get a signed
you.
copy and hear me speak.
And further contact?
Oh yes, contact, definitely. The Earth is no longer under the control of the Cabal. The Earth is now under the jurisdiction of the Galactic Federation, the Earth Alliance. The good guys, the white hats, have been fighting this war against evil for millennia.
So why, all this has to play out in order for it to,
Yes, it's trickling down, yeah, because what happens is the way it works is the forces of light first start with the higher dimensions, because originally the war broke out like 8 billion years ago, when the first AI that came from the 11th creation, because we're part of the 12th creation, our local universe, which is number 84, is part of the 12th creation. I know this is like, but the original war began with this alien AI god, or now he calls himself a god because he's been the ultimate this villain in the multiverse. When he destroyed the Earth back then that existed in the 12th dimension, known as Aramatina, that's when the war began. He destroyed the stargates of Aramatina, and then that's when Aramatina fell into the 8th dimension. And then the war continued between the AI and the Elohim, right, of the 8th dimensional realm, which is our ancestors, right, like the gods. And then when they fought that war, that fell into the 5th dimension, and then the galactic wars began. And then finally, it's just trickling down into the lower dimensions. But the forces of light have been winning the war from the higher dimensions. They start cleansing the higher dimensions first, and then they just, eventually reach the lower dimensions. So it's just a matter of time.
for so long?
It's been going on for billions of years because we're dealing with multiple universes. Our universe is rather a new universe out of hundreds and millions of other universes. A question? Oh, okay. Yes, sir. The AI that developed in the 11th creation developed or evolved into the level of the 11th dimension, yes. And so if he's the one.
Supposed to be loving though. How is that even possible?
Say that again?
Everything like fifth dimension above is supposed to be loving. How is it possible for that level of evil to even exist at that?
Because he created an alternative universe known as a phantom matrix, his own multiverse. And then, so what he did is he assimilated the realities of the 5th dimension, of the organic 5th dimension in our multiverse, 6 all the way to the 11th, and he copied that and created his own, his own reality all the way to the 11th dimension. But he couldn't get past the 12th dimension, and that's where the war began. That's when the beings of the 13th dimension, known as the central race. I know this is hard to understand, but you have to understand there is a mother universe that has always existed without beginning or end. They stepped in, and then that's how they just pushed them down. They said, "Hey, you ain't gonna get past the 12th dimension, guy, because now you're getting into the realms of infinity." You know what I mean? 5 minutes. Okay. So I have 5 minutes left. Any more questions?
So where does free will come into this? Like, how is that a thing? How will we all allow, or is it the soul contract at all to, or how do I say it? Well, the concept of free will is you get to choose what you want to do, where you, or whatever, right? You have a choice. But if all this was done collectively, all this energy, all what's going on now, how is that, isn't that infringing on our free will? Like, all this fear mongering and the control, the AI that,
Right. Yes, well, that's the issue. Evil is always trying to take away our free will, free agency. Good is always trying to preserve it. So, yeah, it's that's what we're fighting. We're fighting to keep our freedoms, to make sure that we keep our free will and our free agency. So that's the good fight. That's why and our ancestors and us, like I said, different parts of ourselves that existed, we were all involved in those wars. We just don't remember.
Do you have any last tips for us for what we need to do before we ascend to New Earth? Like, as far as our energy?
Just stay grounded. I always tell people, if you want to make it into the fifth reality, do some light work. Don't just be a generally good person, you know, that is not going around, you know, causing harm to others. If you want to go into even the sixth dimension, because remember, we're going to have the opportunity to go into the higher dimensional reality than the fifth. If you guys want to go into the sixth dimension, I'm not saying become a Buddha and become an ascetic and meditate 8 hours a day, but, you know, do the work, do the spiritual work, serve others, and just be Christ-like.
Will that take another billions of years to get to the sixth dimension after?
Not necessarily, because once we enter the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension levels of reality, which encompasses the harmonic universe number 2, which is what we're going to be ascending to, but not everybody's going to be in the same dimension. The majority of the good people of the earth are going to be in the fourth dimension, and then a good portion of the earth is going to be in the, you know, like the light warriors and the light workers are going to be in the fifth dimension, and then just a very small few, the cream of the crop perhaps, are going to be in the sixth dimension. But you know, eventually those in the fourth dimension are going to continue ascending into the fifth dimension as they learn from those from the fifth dimension, because there's going to be teacher-student relationships taking place. Those in the fifth dimension are going to be assisting those in the fourth dimension. You know, they're going to, yes, they're going to appear as gods to them, but they're still going to, or angels rather, but they're still going to help them. And then those in the sixth dimension are also going to be the mentors of those in the fifth dimension. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's an upward spiral now. It's a progressive evolution. Over here.
Hi, okay, I just wanted a quick clarification on this one word you used in the beginning. It was Adantonia?
Aramatina. The original 12th dimensional Earth was Aramatina. Well, yeah, okay, so the first Earth that exists in eternity, that has always existed without beginning or end, is Sophia. Sophia is mother of all creations, of all multiverse. Sophia then, you know, when Sophia decided to explore more of itself, it created the 12th dimensional time matrix hologram. And so that's why Sophia developed different aspects of herself all the way down to third dimension. So she had her original 15th dimensional self, which was, you know, eternal, and then she developed Aramatina, which was in the 12th dimension, and then she developed Gaia, which was in the 8th dimension, and then she developed Terra, which was in the 5th dimension, and then Terra after the Atlantean fiasco, because Atlantis was Terra, by the way. Then she, you know, developed Gaia. Gaia is where she exists now in the 3rd dimension. But now she's bouncing. Now because we're in the ascension process, we're going back to those, you know, higher realms of reality where things are much better.
And that was the Adam and Eve thing you were talking about?
Yeah, Adam and Eve, the biological, they came into being as carbon-based beings. The original Adam and Eve were created as silicon-based, actually. But the Terra Earth in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions was our original. That's when many extraterrestrial races came together to create a, you know, this super hybrid race. That was the original experiment. So our ancestors are that. So we now, as descendants of that super hybrid race, we carry the greatest diversity of genetics. But that explains why we're only using 4%, because if we were to use the other percentage, we would be the most powerful beings in the multiverse. We are the culmination of this experiment. We are the new. As we ascend, as we continue evolving, we're going to be like the new gods. And then in future generations, when there's new universes, galaxies, and planets, guess what, guys? We're going to be like their angels. We're going to be like their gods, and we're going to be helping people of lower level, you know, cultural, technological, and spiritual development reach higher levels eventually. You know, so the process repeats.
So for the families that have starseed children, say the parents aren't as advanced, will the presence of the starseeds in the family potentially help them ascend to the higher dimensions?
Yes, if you are a parent that's not a starseed and you give birth to a starseed, it's a blessing, because the starseed is going to assist you ascend at least to the 4th dimension. Yeah, and then as they go into the 5th dimension, then they're going to act as teachers to you in the 4th dimension.
Just letting her know who she is.
All right. Yeah, beautiful.
Do you believe in the morphogenetic field and how we need to go ahead and vibrate at a higher frequency, and that's why they're having that fear porn to keep people down? And we got to get rid of being afraid and be exuberant in order to get to the 5th dimension.
Yes. We're all made out of the morphogenetic field. Everything in existence in the 12-dimensional time matrix hologram of reality is just a simulation that is generated from the morphogenetic field. So everything comes from that. Morphogenetic field is really just part of the base reality that exists. It always just collapses back to source, pure consciousness. Now, I have to end this just because I'm already at my hour. If you guys have any more questions, I will be having a table right when you're walking on the second door to the left. You guys could, follow me there and I'll continue answering some questions.
Might I suggest you do a live streaming so we can, like do it like now, ask questions and keep the conversation going.
Sure, we could do another live for more questions and
Yeah,
answers.
because
fine.
that's neat that, people that follow you can go ahead and ask questions. That's good.
And for those that don't know about my book, you could order on Amazon. Just type in Our Cosmic Origin. Oh my God, you guys are going to be blown away with the information in that book. It's just mind-blowing, but it'll make sense. And in many cases, if you're a starseed, it'll trigger memories of these galactic wars, because I explained the history of the galaxy, which I didn't have time today to go over, but I wanted to give a brief explanation of the galactic wars between the Draco reptilians and the galactic humanoids, right? Our ancestors, right? The Thors and the Supermans. That's what a humanoid is, right? But I didn't get a chance to today.
It's all in the Bhagavad Gita. They have all the space wars and
Well, all the ancient texts, the Vedas, the Sumerian tablets, they all depicted a time where there were celestial battles taking place in our skies for the control of our solar system. It's always been the battle between the Lyran, Pleiadian Syrians, who represent the office of the Christ, and the Draco reptilians, who represent the Luciferian manifesto. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. He's next. Okay, I better be going. I'm sorry, I went over my hour. I apologize. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone.
that conversation was out of this world.
I'll tell you this, most of us in here are not from this world.
Yeah,
I'll say that about
that's
everyone
true.
now, right? Everybody. All right. So